Good morning. I want to first begin sermon time by inviting all the seniors. I've kind of learned most of them, not all of them. But if the seniors, high school seniors are here, please come to the front row and have a seat. Consider this your chance to be head of the class one last time in 2012 right here at Silver Lake United Methodist Church. Today's sermon time is especially for our seniors, but as always, I'm including something for all of us. Because graduation is a time that many of us can probably remember what that was like. I know as I was thinking this morning and I was preparing and praying, I was thinking about how excited I was and how I was thinking of things that weren't even related today, like, wow, I can't wait until that first time I can sleep in and my mom can't tell me I have to get up and do something. All those good things. But I'm going to start off today's sermon time with a little Dr. Seuss. Who knew that you could go to church and have Dr. Seuss incorporated into it? And I'm reading from a book. It's the title of my sermon, Oh, the Places You Will Go, by Dr. Seuss. And I'm not going to read the entire book, but this is for our seniors. Congratulations. Today is your day. You're off to great places. You're off and away. You have brains in your head. You have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. You're on your own, and you know what you know. And you are the guy or girl who will decide where to go. You'll look up and down streets, look them over with care. About some you will say, I don't choose to go there. With your head full of brains and your shoes full of feet, you're too smart to go down any not so good street. And you may not find any you'll want to go down. In that case, of course, you'll head straight out of town. It's opener there in the wide open air. Out there, things can happen, and frequently do, to people as brainy and footsy as you. And when things start to happen, don't worry, don't stoop. Just go right along, you'll start happening too. Oh, the places you'll go. I like this book a lot, and it keeps going on, and it says how you can go through life and things can go well, but other times things can happen and take us down roads that we struggle. And it's all about having that stamina to keep going. Well, not only am I using Dr. Seuss as an illustration, but a little bit about Dr. Seuss I thought was pretty applicable for our seniors today. Theodore Seuss Geisel, I may be saying his name correctly, was born in 1904 and died in 1991. He first used illustrations to augment his liberal-leaning political satire, which I thought was pretty interesting considering that most of us that know Dr. Seuss know it from our children in books like Oh, the Places You Will Go, or Horton Hears a Who, or Green Eggs and Ham. He became editor-in-chief at Dartmouth College humor magazine called Jack-O-Lantern when he was in college. And an interesting thing about this, because while he was there, he got in trouble for throwing a campus party that broke some of the rules, so he was fired. That could have been the end of Dr. Seuss, soon as we later knew as Dr. Seuss. But Theodore quickly found a way around that, and he realized he wanted to continue his dream. So he resumed writing under the name Seuss. And that's part of the journey of how we get to Dr. Seuss. Interestingly enough, he did not consider himself to be an overly religious man. Not at all. But some of the things he wrote definitely spoke to how we as Christians are taught to live our lives. When there is something that we have a passion for, and when we think that something is wrong, we should speak to it. And Dr. Seuss did this through his writing. For example, did you know the book Sneetches was actually a commentary on the absurdity of discrimination? He was actually talking about why it was wrong to discriminate against people. And the book The Lorax was his concern on the environment. And Ukes and Zooks, which actually turned out to be one of his most controversial books he wrote, was his proliferation of nuclear weapons books that we read to our kids, and our kids have no idea some of the things that he's saying right here. But that's what Dr. Seuss did. He found a way to take his passion and his beliefs about how our world should be and to portray them in rhyming, sing-songy verses just like this. "Oh, the places you will go is a story of life being a big adventure." What I love about Seuss is he illustrates those points. Regardless of the title, he wasn't a preacher. But you could take any of his books and you could come up with something. And sometimes they're actually used at graduation ceremonies and in churches all the time. Just imagine, I'm always preaching to my seniors and to the youth that you don't have to be a preacher. You don't have to be someone in the church that stands up here. You don't have to be a youth director, a youth minister. God has called you just as you are to do amazing things. And today is your day. You can make an impact and a difference in this world just as you are. If you're shy, if you're quiet, if you're not so quiet, you have passion, and God has given you so many gifts. Today is your day. But stumbling blocks do come along. They often do. And road trips, the places you will go. And I have to admit, one of the things I thought of is I have been so lucky. I'm so glad I came back to Silver Lake in time to see the three of you graduate. Because I can remember when all of you were in 7th and 8th grade taking confirmation class. I can remember some of the road trips we took, our trips to Kansas City. And I believe all three of you were involved in going to Kansas City and staying in Asbury. And Quinn and I were talking about that yesterday, her eating 20 bowls of cereal, and us running around the church. And we're playing things like sardines with Pastor Jay. He was showing us how to hide in all the great places in the dark of the church, and we're screaming and having a good time. Oh, the places you will go. Do you remember some of the road trips we took? Do you remember how often I got us lost? How I couldn't seem to follow the map or find the GPS? But we always managed to find our way. We always managed to actually make that trip more fun. In fact, these girls got a little head start on marriage when I believe Mark Burdick and Gerald were in the other van, and they were supposed to be following me because I had a GPS and I had the map. But Mark and Gerald, being Mark and Gerald, decided that they knew the way, and they were going to leave us and go on their separate way. So pretty soon, we're in Kansas City. I have the directions. Pastor Jay is going to meet us later on. We're on our way. We're going to the Salvation Army. And I look back and I see, and Tina's with me, I think, and I see that they're not with us. And so we have our cell phones and we're calling them, and they're like, "Where are you? We're in the Salvation Army." And I'm turning around and say, "Well, we're in the Salvation Army too. I don't know where you are." Well, it turns out, number one, we were in the wrong state. I had GPS from Missouri, and we were supposed to be in Kansas. So we were on the other side of the river. We were at a Salvation Army, but the three of the girls just laughed and laughed because Gerald and I are like, "You're supposed to be following me. I'm the youth leader. You're supposed to be following me." I hope you save that for future reference. To this day, I give Mark and Gerald a very hard time. But sometimes the roadmap we start out, going point A to point B, isn't always a straight line. There will probably be things that happen today and tomorrow and next year and the next 5 years. You may think that this is your destination, but God may have something planned entirely different for you. And I hope that you will open your ears to that and open your hearts to that and listen to what God is saying. It's okay to take detours. It's okay to have those things in our life that take us on a different path. There are going to be some things that happen in your life where you're leaving Silver Lake, and whether you choose to go to school or you choose to go to work, you're going to deal with disappointment sometimes in ways you never have before. But you have what it takes to leave this place and to do great things. I am thinking of my own graduation 16 years ago. 16 years ago. And one thing of advice I want you to take with you, number one, don't let anyone determine your self-worth. You can do whatever it is your heart sets you. And I use an example of when I was in kindergarten. In kindergarten, as you can imagine, I was one of the youngest and the smallest of my class. And at the end of my kindergarten year, my teacher actually wanted to hold me back. She wanted me to, I was doing everything developmentally, but she didn't think I was ready for kindergarten. In fact, she was afraid that because I was so young, and at that time very quiet and very shy, and I didn't talk much, that maybe I just needed an additional year. Now think about this. Her reason for holding me back was because I was quiet and shy. I'm glad to say that 33, almost 34 years later, as an adult from when I was a baby, I am not quiet or shy. But imagine what would have happened if my parents decided to hold me back, which would have been okay. But I am who I am. And then I think about in high school. In high school, I had a really hard time with math. Math was not one of my subjects. And maybe some of you, that's the case too. I could read, but math, I struggled and struggled and struggled with. And I actually had a teacher tell me at one time, I don't think you should go to college, because I don't know if you can handle it. And I don't think that, there's other plans that there are out for you. And for some people, that's okay, and college isn't for everyone. But I'm so glad that I used those words to push me further, to keep me going, to prove to her and to anybody else that doubted it that I could do great things. And I did go to college, and hopefully someday we'll go back to get my master's. My advice to you today, graduates, is to never, ever give up. Follow your passions and your dreams, and remember that there will be challenges. There will be times that you feel alone. But God is with each of us and all of us. Be true to who you are. Paul, in the scripture we looked at today, Paul struggled quite a bit. And during the time that he wrote Philippians, and again he says, rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say rejoice. Paul says this during a time of tribulation and trial in his own life. He was in prison. He was going to be killed. But he still held tight to what God and the promise God had for him. And he still believed that he should go out and tell other people the good news. And what I want to say to you young people is our world is desperate right now for people to have, our world is desperate right now to have people that have faith to get through those times. Young people now are looking for something better. And sometimes they don't look to the church, and they don't look to pastors, and they don't look to all of us. They're looking for something real and genuine, and you all have that passion. You all have the benefit of being young people that have passion and excitement to go out into the world and take that excitement with you. As we get older, we tend to just say, oh, that's how it's supposed to be. Life's not fair, but I can't solve all the world problems. And you're right, we can't solve all the world problems, but take that passion and that energy you have now and take it beyond. Just as Dr. Seuss did, you don't have to be a youth minister or a pastor, but if you do, come see me, because Pastor Jay and I will be really excited about that. But take your passions beyond these church walls and help spread God's love and grace in everything you do. Whether you become a teacher, a doctor, a lawyer, or you work in an office, or you haul trash, God has called each of us, every single one of us here, to do His work and spread His love. And when the times get hard and you're feeling alone and things get rough, remember what God says to us. For surely I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans for your welfare and not for harm, to give you a future with hope. Remember above all things that we